Hey there, empowered peeps. I'm Ryan to the rescue. And today we're going to talk about building something, but not like what you might think. We're going to talk about building a better future. As you may know, I had a wonderful, delightful, fabulous life and a beautiful husband. And then last year he passed away, which left my life a shattered mess, and I was in a deep, dark valley of despair. Now, trauma can come in many, many forms. It could be the loss of a job. It could be the loss of your health or a limb or any of a number of things that are important to you. And after trauma, it can leave you feeling like the best of my days are behind me, or there's no good left in my life, or no one will ever love me again. Well, ask yourself, are these thoughts beneficial to me? If not, consider taking steps to change them. You may feel like life is just going to be crappy from here on out. But did you know that you're in charge of your feelings? What you do is you change your thoughts, and then your feelings will follow. I choose to put thoughts in my head that evoke feelings that are beneficial to me. For example, I was in Hobby Lobby one day and I found this sign. I trust the next chapter because I know the author. I really wanted to believe that. I really, really did. I wanted to believe that God is the author of my next chapter of my life. And I wanted to believe that he had a good chapter ahead for me. But I just didn't. I just didn't believe it. It was only about 4 or 5 or 6 months after my husband had passed away. And I just didn't believe it. I believed those things that I shared with you earlier. My life is just a downward spiral from here. No one will ever love me again. My best days are behind me. And I just wasn't sure if I could believe that the author of my life and the author of the next chapter had something good for me. But I wanted to believe it. And I decided to buy this. It had cardboard on each of the corners. And I left the cardboard on there. I did not hang it up on my wall for at least 3 or 4 months, because I was leaving the option to return this because I just didn't believe it. But like I said, I wanted to believe it. So you know what I did? I just decided that I'm going to believe it. I just decided that I'm going to change my thoughts so that my feelings will follow. And sure enough, it did. I took those cardboard corners off. I hung it up on the wall right next to my mirror in the bathroom, so I saw it every morning. And little by little, I began to believe it because I put those positive thoughts in my head. And so now I do trust that God has a good chapter for me next. I do trust that the next years and decades of my life will be good and beautiful and wonderful because I do trust the author. Now, I'd like to share with you some of my favorite verses. Now, before you say, hey now Ryan, I'm not religious, I'm not going to listen to this stuff, I'd like to encourage you, please go ahead and listen, because the Bible is for everyone. And maybe you don't believe in God. The Bible is still for you. God's love is still for you. So I'd like to read these verses to you that really encourage me. Psalm 42. I waited patiently for the Lord, and he reached down to me and heard my cry. He lifted me out of the pit of despair. He set my feet on solid ground and steadied me as I walked along. I truly felt in a pit of despair when my husband died. And you may feel in a pit of despair after your traumatic loss. But I'm here to tell you that God will hear your cry. He will reach down to you in your pit of despair, pull you out of that pit, and steady you as you walk along, because he still has good things for you in the future. Speaking of that, This is a great one. Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. And I love this one in Zechariah 9:12. I promise this very day I will repay 2 blessings for each of your troubles. I love that. I want to believe that God is going to restore to my life a double portion of all of the loss that I've suffered. And I'm believing that for you too. And I especially love this one. If you know the story of Job, you know that he had a really, really great life, and then he lost it all to a very traumatic tragedy. And then after he still loved God, and he still stayed faithful to God, and he still served God, God restored everything that he had and even more. So I'm holding on to hope that God will do that for me too. Listen to this verse. The Lord blessed the latter part of Job's life more than the former part. That's Job 42:12. I'd like to share with you the theory of post-traumatic growth. Even though we've had a traumatic event in our life, it doesn't mean that our life is just now a downward spiral of gloom and despair until we die. But you can actually grow and thrive. Your life and future can be better than it ever was before the trauma, not in spite of the loss, but because of the loss. Does that blow your mind? There's truth to the phrase, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Think about it. My traumatic event and your traumatic event didn't kill you. It may have nearly killed you, and it may have killed some of your dreams, and it may have even killed someone or something that was really important to you. But it didn't kill you. Therefore, if you will allow it and take some positive steps, that traumatic event can actually make you stronger. I'd like to share with you some teachings of the theory of post-traumatic growth. Trauma can sometimes be the springboard to greater well-being. Trauma is like an earthquake, and it shakes you to your core, and it can leave you completely shattered. And like a building that's shattered from an earthquake, it's going to have to be rebuilt. So, if you're going to have to rebuild your life, why not build it better and bigger and stronger and more beautiful than it was before? Let me give you a visual example. Let's say you're going through life and you're just living a happy little life. Everything's just peachy and wonderful. And then a traumatic event happens and you crash and burn. Then you find yourself ready to rebuild and try to have a good life. So you may think, well, I can't get back up. I can't get as happy as I was before. So maybe I could rebuild and kind of get kind of good. Yeah? No, I would like to propose that you continue rebuilding. And you may think, well, maybe I could get back up to where I was. Let's not stop there. Let's keep building. I would like to set a goal before us to build a better life. A better life than we had before. Trauma is a catalyst for transformation, and it makes you reevaluate your views on life and the world and your faith and your future. Why not take this opportunity of transformation that you're in anyway and get stronger and healthier physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, spiritually, and in every other way? The psychologist Viktor Frankl said, when we are no longer able to change our situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. So how do we change ourselves? I have 4 suggestions. 1, do something new in your life that evokes a renewed sense of passion and joy, like get a new haircut, or start a new job, or learn a new hobby, learn a new sport, travel, write a book. 2, do something that blesses others. You could volunteer at a school, or you could serve others through a church or community organization. You could cook a meal for someone. You could knit booties for babies in the NICU, or you could teach someone a new skill. You could mentor someone. It's a beautiful thing to empower someone. 3, work on yourself. Go to some counseling, or get a life coach, or read some self-help materials. Listen to a podcast, take a new class, learn a new skill, start to exercise. 4, identify some positive benefits that have occurred because of your trauma. Perhaps increased inner strength, or greater appreciation for life, or more grace and forgiveness for others. A greater sense of gratitude, shifting and clarity of priorities, not sweating the small stuff, and a greater commitment to do better in this one life that we've been given. Maybe you're thinking, I just lost my happily ever after. I'm not ready for all of this stuff. Well, I feel you. I lost my happily ever after too. And after a period of deep, dark sadness that we all go through after trauma, there comes a time to rebuild. And if you're not there yet, I hope that you'll revisit this video when you are. And if you are ready to rebuild, I hope that something that I said in this video resonated with you, and you can apply it, and you can start to rebuild. One more thing I'd like to share with you is you may have heard about the mythological bird, the phoenix. Well, the story goes that it was a beautiful, majestic bird that was filled with joy and song. And then one day it was consumed with fire, and there was nothing left but a pile of ashes. Though it was dead and there were only ashes left, it recreated itself, and it rose from the ashes, and when it did, it was stronger and wiser and more resilient and more beautiful than it ever was before. When your trauma occurred, you may have felt like your life was just a pile of ashes. I know I did. When my husband died, I felt my life was ashes and rubble. But I didn't want to stay there. So I identified with the phoenix because it's symbolic of rebirth, renewal, and rising from the ashes. So let's take some inspiration from the phoenix and let's reinvent ourselves as an upgraded version of our past self. I'd like to speak a blessing over you. I pray that God takes away your ashes and gives you a crown of beauty instead, and that He takes away your mourning and gives you a joyous blessing instead, and that He takes away your despair and gives you festive praise instead. That's a paraphrase of the verse Isaiah 61:3. I'm going to list that verse and the other verses that I shared with you already in the description below, in case you want to go back and read them again. So my friends, I love you very, very much, and I'm truly invested in your well-being. I hope that you'll reach out and you'll leave in the comments below how you're making positive changes in your life to bring about more joy and more wonderfulness. And I'll keep you updated on how things are progressing in my life as well. It is my hope that we all move forward through this period of grief and into the glorious future that lies ahead of us. But we have to take steps to make it glorious. I'm only 1 year on this journey of grief and trauma and loss, but I'm committed to making my future better. So let's go on this journey together. It's never too late for our happily ever after. Let's build a better future. We can do it.